My name is Ethan Carter. I am 33 years old. I live in a small town called Millbrook in the state of Oregon, USA. Millbrook is quiet. One grocery store, one high school, one gas station, and too many memories. I never planned to come back here, but life doesn't always ask what we plan. 3 weeks ago, I lost my job in Seattle. The tech company I worked for suddenly closed. One meeting, 10 minutes, position eliminated. That was it. I packed my apartment in 2 days. My savings were low. The rent was high. So I drove back to Millbrook, back to my childhood home, a white wooden house on Willow Street. The house was empty for 2 years after my father passed away. I had not entered it since the funeral, until now. The first night felt strange. The house smelled like dust and old wood. The walls were quiet, too quiet. I slept in my old bedroom, the same blue walls, the same small window, the same creaking floor. At 2:17 a.m., I woke up. I don't know why, but I heard something, a soft knock, 3 slow taps. Knock, knock, knock. I sat up. My heart was beating fast. The sound came again, from downstairs. I grabbed my phone and turned on the flashlight. I walked slowly down the stairs. The house felt colder than before. I reached the living room. Nothing. No one. The front door was locked. Windows closed. Maybe it was just the old wood. I told myself I was imagining things. I went back to bed, but I didn't sleep. The next morning, I tried to clean the house. I opened old boxes. I found photo albums, pictures of my parents smiling, pictures of me as a child, happy, carefree. Then I found something strange, a small brown envelope. It had my name on it, Ethan, but I had never seen it before. It was hidden inside an old book, my father's handwriting. My hands started shaking. Why didn't he give this to me before? I opened the envelope slowly. Inside was a letter and a key. The letter said, "If you are reading this, it means you came back home. There is something you need to see. Not everything in this house is what it seems. Go to the basement. Use the key. Trust your instincts." No explanation, no details, just that. My father was not a dramatic man. He was simple, honest. Why would he write something like this? The basement. I hadn't gone there in years. As a child, I was afraid of it. It was dark, cold, full of old tools and boxes. I stood at the basement door for 5 minutes, thinking. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe it was just some old storage. But something inside me said, "Go." The stairs to the basement creaked loudly. Each step felt heavier. The air smelled damp. At the bottom, I turned on the small light. Dust floated in the air. Old furniture covered in white sheets. Metal shelves. Cardboard boxes. Everything looked normal. Then I saw it. In the far corner, behind a large wooden shelf, a small metal door in the wall. I had never seen it before. It was painted the same color as the wall, hidden. My father never mentioned this. My heart started beating faster. I walked closer. There was a lock on the small metal door. I held the key from the envelope. My hands felt cold. For a second, I almost turned back, but I didn't. I inserted the key. Click. The lock opened. I pulled the small metal door. Inside was a narrow space, like a hidden room. There was a table, a chair, and a stack of notebooks. That's all. No treasure, no money, just notebooks. I stepped inside, closed the door behind me. The air felt still. I opened the first notebook. On the first page it said, "Millbrook is not what it looks like." My stomach tightened. What did that mean? I turned the page. Names, dates, descriptions. My father had been writing about people in town. Secret meetings, late-night activities, strange deliveries near the old lake house. This didn't make sense. My father was a mechanic. Why would he be investigating people? Then I saw a name that made my blood run cold. Mayor Daniel Harper, the most respected man in town, the man who spoke at my father's funeral, the man everyone trusted. Why was his name in this notebook? Suddenly, I heard something upstairs. A door closing. Slow footsteps. My body froze. I was alone in the house, or I thought I was. The footsteps moved across the living room. Then they stopped. Silence. I turned off the basement light immediately. Darkness. My breathing became loud in my ears. Then 3 slow knocks on the basement door. Knock, knock, knock. The same sound from last night. Someone was inside my house, and they knew I was here. I held my phone tightly. Should I call 911? The footsteps moved again, slow, careful, like the person was listening, waiting. Then I heard a voice, soft, almost whispering. "Ethan, I know you're home." My heart almost stopped. It was a man's voice, calm, controlled. "How do you know my name?" I whispered to myself. The voice came again. "You found it, didn't you?" Found what? The notebooks? How could someone know? My mind was racing. I stayed silent. After a long minute, the footsteps moved towards the front door. The door opened. Then it closed. Silence. I stayed in the basement for 10 more minutes, not moving, not breathing normally. Finally, I turned the light back on. My hands were shaking badly. This was no accident. Someone knew about the hidden room. Someone knew about the letter, and someone didn't want me to read those notebooks. I grabbed 3 notebooks and put them in my backpack. Then I locked the metal door again, went upstairs carefully. The front door was closed, but it was unlocked. I was sure I had locked it. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat at the kitchen table, reading, page after page. My father had been watching something for years. Secret land deals, disappearing funds, private meetings near the lake, and one final sentence in the last notebook. "If anything happens to me, it was not an accident." My father died in a car crash 2 years ago. They said it was bad weather. They said he lost control. But now I wasn't so sure. Outside, a car slowly passed my house. Its headlights moved across the windows. Then it stopped. The engine stayed on, watching, waiting. I realized something in that moment. Coming back to Millbrook was not a mistake. It was the beginning, and whatever my father discovered was still alive and dangerous, and I had just stepped into it.